What do cross-country road trips, exchange programs in Greece and Australia, and decades of adventure have in common? They're all part of the incredible travel journey of my guest today, Laura Dilts. In this episode of Stamped Global Travel Stories, where every guest answers the same 10 questions that uncover the moments, people, and places that have shaped their travels.
Welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is founder of the Global Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. Each week, Tracy is joined by expert guests as she takes you on a journey to destinations around the world, sharing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, and practical tips to help you plan your next adventure. Join us as we explore everywhere from bustling cities to remote landscapes, uncover cultural treasures, and discover the best ways to make your travel dreams a reality.
Hi, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Global Travel Planner Podcast and to another episode of Stamped Global Travel Stories. This is our special series where each guest answers the same 10 questions, uncovering the sparks, the moments, and the destinations that have shaped their travel lives. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Laura Dilts. Many of you will know Laura from our Facebook communities, where she's an active contributor and a wonderful supporter of both this podcast and the UK Travel Planning Podcast. As you'll hear, Laura has traveled extensively throughout her life, from family road trips across America to exchange programs in Greece and Australia and more. And now, as her children are grown, she's embracing a new chapter of travel with exciting adventures ahead. Laura has some fantastic stories to share, so let's dive straight into her Stamped journey.
So I'm from Massachusetts. I have two children. They're now both adults. My youngest is 18 and my son just turned 21 2 days ago. So I'm sort of a semi-empty nester, and I'm starting a new phase of travel because there's definitely been different parts of travel in my life. So because my daughter's off at school in September, I'm headed to London and Scotland, and I've been working on that for a year, and that's how we originally I met you and found you. So but I've traveled my whole life different ways, lots of different ways.
Yeah, and I know you're a big fan of both this podcast, the Global Travel Planning Podcast, and the UK Travel Planning Podcast. Yeah. And it's been great, actually, to get to know you over the last time. And you the last probably a year or so, I think. And you're great at leaving messages on SpeakPipe. And the girls really love it as well when you leave us a message. So I send them to Melissa and I send to Shelley. And I was like, so excited to hear from you. We really love it. And we feel like we're getting to know you really well. So it was obvious I had to ask you to come on and share about your travels, because you have traveled extensively and done some very exciting things. We were over the moon when we found out that you'd actually spent some time living in Australia as well. So I'm so happy that you agreed to come on to this month's episode of Stamped. So should we start at the beginning? And So who lit the spark for you? Who or what inspired your love of travel, Laura?
Well, I would say my parents, because they took me camping since I was 6 months old. And my childhood, we always would go cross country. My father would do research at Los Alamos. He's a nuclear physicist and he was a professor. So we would do road trips to and from going to Los Alamos and, up through Canada and around, or around the South and up to Canada, up to California, and then to Utah, and then across the Dakotas, and you get the idea. So we would do a road trip on the way out and a road trip on the way back, and focusing on national parks, national historic sites, stopping to see family and friends along the way. And so that's how I started traveling. And then when I was a teenager, I did several things that were travel related. My family has always welcomed visitors to the university from other countries to our dinner table. And my mother ran an organization called Round the World Women to help wives in that era. Now it would be spouse of both genders, but getting acclimated to the United States, everything from how to open a bank account to what is Thanksgiving. And we would have different people from around the world at our dinner table. And I was part of an exchange club for 4-H, which is also young farmers in the UK and rural youth in Australia. And that's how I went to Australia, was with that exchange. And at 16, I was working as a lifeguard and we had been studying Greek mythology. And my favorite English teacher with her husband, who was a professor, would do trips to Greece. So I asked my parents if I could go to Greece, and I figured out how to pay for half of it. So that was the first time I traveled by myself overseas.
Wow. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. So you're talking about so initially that your dad and traveling all around the States and exploring it, and also having so many different people from around the world at your dinner table. So not only were you sharing with them about kind of the American culture, but you were learning all about theirs as well. Which I mean, I'm a little bit jealous here, Laura, because I would have loved that, and I'm guessing you did too, because you have an interest in people like me. You like people, like learning about people and finding out about them. So wow, from an early age, what a privilege to be able to do
and
that.
The internet makes it easier to keep in touch with people. So I mean, I know people around the world. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, you definitely do. So now, I know you kind of briefly mentioned there about kind of your traveling to Greece. Now, was that your first stamp? Was that your first time out of the US? I know you went to Canada, so I'm not going to.
It was my first time off of the North American continent.
Yeah.
Because also when we were little, we went to Mexico. I went swimming in the river Rio Grande at 6 in my underwear because my parents said, "Oh, go on ahead, go for a dip."
So I guess your first passport stamp was you went to Mexico, you went to Canada. So those are your two with your parents. And then your first one that you kind of left that kind of North American continent, was that Greece? Was that the first place that you went to?
Correct.
And how did you find that? How was it?
The most unusual thing was, and I know I said this on, I think your global travel in conversation, was when I was there was a young woman who was also 16, but she had just gotten married to a 40-year-old Greek man. And as a 16-year-old American, I was just like, how could she do that? Like, I could not fathom it. And she talked about why she was happy to be married. Now, this was a wealthy gentleman. I was on his yacht. So you have to understand, it wasn't, I said, and you're okay? And she's like, yes, because I get to do this and I get to do that. And so it opened my eyes to the world in a different way. But to me, teenage 16-year-old from Massachusetts is like, I don't understand how she could do that. So, I mean, I learned from that. And the food, I remember the street food and the ruins, it was just, it was March, and part of our trip, we were in a fishing village and we stayed in a little hotel there, but the town welcomed us, and partially because of the time period, the boys played the American boys played the Greek boys in football, soccer. And we went to the church and we saw a wedding. We didn't go to the reception, but they invited us to see a Greek wedding. So we did do some touristy stuff, but we really were interacting with this little community. I have very fond memories from it.
I bet. I think it's that's again an amazing experience at age 16, getting to be able to experience a Greek culture like that. What would you say was your first big adventure?
Oh God, see, that was hard for me because I've had lots of them. Well, as a senior in high school in 1982, we hosted the young farmers from the UK. And then the next summer we went there. So that was really the next big trip I did on my own with that group. So for a week we were in London and we went to Bath for a day and we went to Stratford and upon Avon. And then my host family was in Oxford. And what I remember most about that was I was legal to drink at 18, which was not the case in the United States. And so they took me across the street, literally across the street from their house was the pub. And my first legal drink, because it was Harvey Wallbanger night, was a Harvey Wallbanger.
Oh, my goodness.
And we went punting, which must have been in Cambridge and not Oxford, but I was staying in Oxford. And I've kept in touch with Mary, who stayed with us, and I'm actually seeing her in a few weeks. So I've known her for over 40 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. That's absolutely
so I would say
incredible.
that's probably, but I like all kinds of travel. A day trip versus an expensive overseas trip. To me, I love it all. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you just love all travel. What about, and I'm sure for the next question, this is another hard one. I know I had to think about this one myself, because I just did an interview for just before Christmas, actually. But can you describe a place or a moment where it really completely blew you away and you were just, wow?
For me, what came to mind, because I know you asked ahead and you gave us the questions, was when I was in Moscow for adopting my children from Russia. It was a total of 3 trips per kid, so a total of 6 trips
Wow.
to Moscow, two different adoptions, several years apart. The translator, because you pay for a translator and a driver while you're there, which thank God, because trying to read Cyrillic, forget it. It was really cold because we were there in September, November, and December for my sons. So I couldn't believe how cold it was. And I said, oh, I wish it was sunny. And she said, oh, no, when it's sunny, it's even colder because the clouds keep the heat in.
Wow.
I couldn't believe her. The next day it was sunny. So cold. I said, you're not kidding. I mean, I live in New England. It's not like I'm not used to cold. But it was cold. I mean, I brought layers. I was wearing my silk underwear. You know, I wish they had hand warmers. They didn't have them then. They have them now.
Yeah.
And you had to dress in layers because the buildings were hot as heck. You know, you went into the courthouse and you could check your clothes, but you were taking off all these layers.
Yeah.
But you still had to be in a suit to be in front of the judge, you know? Yeah.
So it took your breath away then how cold it was.
Yeah, I couldn't believe, you know, and then the next day she said, see, told you.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is good. I never thought about that sort of experience, but yeah.
I think that was the most surprising. I mean, there's lots of different things. Like I mentioned to you when I was in Australia and I was traveling in Queensland by train. I don't remember the name of the town, but the biggest surprise there was the conductor telling me about a half hour before I had to get off that the train did not stop. It only slowed down to like the speed of an escalator. He was going to throw out the town mail, then throw out my suitcase and tell me to jump. I'm like, what? Yes, this stop, we don't really stop. You're the only person. Normally we just throw the mail off. It's slowing down. So he does. Thank God I was in my 20s and I'm not an athlete. I'm a super accident prone person. So he throws out my suitcase. He throws out my backpack and he says, jump. And I jump and off the train goes. And there's just this platform in the middle of nowhere. This is before cell phones. There is nothing except steps to get off the platform and the town's mail and no host family. And I'm going, well, someone has to come get the mail at some point. About 5 minutes later in a Land Rover, here comes my host family. So sorry we were late. There were cows in the road.
I love it.
I was like, yeah, I still don't know how my mother's the worrier of my 2 parents. You know, it was before cell phones. So I remember I called that I landed in Australia, but I was in Australia for 9 months and I sent letters back because that was part of the program I was on. I wrote newsletters, which at some point I have to find them in my basement and scan them and send them to you because you'll find them very interesting. But that she could let me go. I still can't believe because, you know, I just let my daughter go, but I could see her on Find My Phone.
Yes, you know where she is.
I could see where she was. And at night when they were traveling by ship, there was a dot in the water moving, you know, because my parents couldn't do that. I still don't know how my father's like, go for it, do it. I still can't believe how trusting they were to let me go at 16, at 18, at 22. Yeah.
But isn't it fabulous that they did? Isn't it? Honestly, I remember phoning my mom. I lived in the French Alps and I moved to Canada. I didn't tell her. I kind of phoned her a few weeks later and said, you know, the previous when I spoke to her, I was in the French Alps. And the next time I kind of picked up the phone and gave her a ring, and she was like, "Oh, how am I? Yeah, I'm good. I just thought I'd let you know that I've moved." And she says, "Oh, where have you gone?" "Well, I'm now living in Toronto." So she was like, "Could you tell?" And she honestly, my mum's in her mid-80s, and she says to me now, she said, "You know what? In your 90s, you will still be going around with a backpack traveling," and she's absolutely right. I will still be going to look for places and meet people, and I think the fact that we had parents who not only give us permission to do that, but kind of encouraged us to do that. I think that's very special.
Well, my father did. My mother begrudgingly went along with it. He always would say, because when I asked to go to Greece, my mother, the only time, and I was not a difficult teenager, I got along with my parents. The only time I didn't talk to my mother for 2 days was when she said I couldn't go to Greece. And my father said, I'll work on it. Right.
Well,
obviously my dad won out because I got to go.
You went. Now, is there? I know you've been a lot of places, but is there a place that you've been to and you just have no desire to go back, or it's just
yes,
been once?
Actually,
yeah, okay, where? Yeah. Where?
I really could skip Paris. Now I have cousins that live in Paris, and if someone asked me, I would go, but I'd be fine not going back to Paris. Now I liked other parts of France. But Paris, I found they didn't really like Americans and they were really rude. And at the time, I found the streets dirty. And people were like, "Oh, but it's not." I said, "Well, that's what I remember about it." And I'm not saying it's not a beautiful country. I do not mean that. But seriously, I don't need to go back. But if a friend, because I'm traveling by myself for this upcoming trip, not because I don't have friends that weren't interested, but for various reasons, no one could go with me. And I had a friend unexpectedly drop dead 2 years ago at 56, and we were originally going to go to Scotland together. And I told my mother, I'm going. I said, I'm not waiting around anymore. So, because life's too short. The number of people that I've lost in the last few years that were, some of their old age, like my father died at 89, almost 90. Okay, he had a good life. He agrees he had a good life. It's still sad, but it's not shocking. But when your friend that you've known since childhood just drops dead, you just don't know,
No.
So, so I gladly will travel with people, but I'm not waiting to travel with people. So I do have like a little bucket list, but I'm also open to doing other things. Like a lot of the things I did this summer was just in talking with some of my girlfriends, and we decided to go for a day trip. Now I'm the organizer and the planner, and I used to plan events, and I would teach Girl Scout leaders how to take Girl Scout troops traveling. And so I'm always the one that's planning the thing, and that doesn't bother me. I always ask for input. So if someone said to me, I really want to go to France, including Paris, will you go with me? I would say yes. And then I would email my cousins that live in Paris. If I was going to stay in France and in Paris, I would ask them to put me up.
Yeah, that's nice. That's lucky.
I wouldn't go. It's just not high on my list, I mean, then there's a whole bunch of places I can't travel to anymore because of different health issues. So there's a whole bunch of places, some of which I really wanted to, that I will never go to at this point because it's not a smart choice for me. Like including going to Africa. I would think it would be, some friends went this last winter and they were on a safari and stuff. I think that's cool, but I'm not traveling there. So a friend just went to Thailand, her neighbor's from Thailand, and invited her to go with her. She stayed with the neighbor's family. She has pictures of her, with the elephants and all these other places. And she told me that, they would, if they went out, her friend would tell them, make it mild, not, she's white, make it mild food, make mild food, because it was otherwise it would be too spicy. But I'm not going to, I won't go to Thailand. But I really appreciate all those places. But because of where I am in my life, there's a whole list that I took a break. When I was in my 20s, I traveled a lot. The last international travel, not including Canada, was to adopt my children. Now my children, I can leave them appropriately, and I couldn't afford to take them with me. It's too expensive. I don't know how, with all your trip reports, how they afford it, but I love hearing about all the ones that take their whole family with them. Some group travel that I did with my parents, we did intergenerational. So we did with my parents, my sister, my family at the time I was married, and with my kids. We would rent places together. It's not impossible, but it gets expensive really fast when you add more than one person.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely is. I was kind of smiling when you mentioned Paris because I just did my Stamped episode before Christmas. I'm trying to record a lot because I'm going to be doing quite a lot of stuff between now and Christmas. And for this question, my answer was also Paris. So that's made me smile when you said
that you wouldn't go back to it. You don't need to go back.
No, I will always go. I will go back to Paris. I will always go, but it's not. If I didn't have to go back to Paris ever again the rest of my life, I wouldn't be upset. Put it that way.
Funny.
So for lots of reasons, but I lived in France.
When we're not recording, we'll have to compare notes more.
We will do. And I don't want to put. And I guess I didn't. I don't want to put anybody off going to Paris because go and experience it.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. I don't want anybody who's French to be offended at all. It's a beautiful country. It's just if I had to pick one, that's the one I could skip. Well, it doesn't mean that there isn't. It's a lovely place. I really don't want to offend anybody. It's just it's not on the top of my list. So I hope I didn't offend anybody.
No, that's also what I said yesterday. I was kind of like, look, because I lived in France. I lived, in rural France. I lived in the Alps. So I said Paris is a slightly different kettle of fish. But anyway, is there somewhere that you happy to return to again and again? So that might be somewhere local to you, or it might be somewhere international.
So, well, it's sort of local. So for 7 years, I lived in Maine. I went to graduate school at the University of Maine in Orono, which is next to Bangor, which is about 5.5 hours northwest of Massachusetts. And then I lived another 90 miles north of there, 40 miles from the Canadian border, in a little town called Patton. So you'll have to look it up. It's a mile from Aroostook County, so it's up there. I used to go over often to New Brunswick, to Fredericton, New Brunswick, to Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. And I went there also as a child. That's totally recommend you read all the Anna Green Gables story before you go, if you haven't been. And I'm guessing you're not a camper because you're not a hiker, but camping in the national park at Cavendish, right near the ocean, was lovely. And they have these shared communal huts for cooking and doing dishes and stuff, which are just so much fun because you get to meet everybody.
Yeah.
So I loved camping there. So I still really love Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. And I took my children when they were about 3 and 5, when I was still married, along with another couple. We went to Canada. That's the last time I was in Nova Scotia. So my kids were little. So I really want to go again. I've been looking at this time of year, Norwegian cruise line it has cruises out of Boston that does the Maritimes that are usually a bargain, like around $800 to $1,000. And they start in Boston and end in Boston. So probably next September, because I've been talking to some friends, I'll probably do that a year from now.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds
I don't want to drive. Well, to get to Nova Scotia, this is about a 12-hour drive. So because I'm older, that sounds exhausting. Whereas when I was younger, it wouldn't have bothered me. So it's not that I wouldn't do it again, but I would have to break it up more.
Yeah.
Get there.
I've actually landed on Prince Edward Island. Would you believe it?
Oh, cool.
That's it, though. On it, flying from.
Was it a little airplane?
No, I don't think so. I'm fairly sure we were flying from Gatwick to Toronto, and for some reason we landed there. I that's all I can remember because I'm like.
Well, I do know several places in Canada, like for 9/11. Planes landed in Canada unexpectedly, a lot of places, and suddenly people were staying.
No, it wasn't then. Yeah. It would have been the early 90s. I don't know. Somewhere in my memory when you said it, but who knows?
But so I love Nova Scotia and want to go back, and highly recommend you go for Canada Day, which is July 1st, because Canada does their Independence Day up big, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And in Halifax, for about 2 weeks in late June into July, they have an international tattoo bagpiping competition.
Oh, wow.
And it's just so much fun. You can buy tickets ahead. And when we went the first time, we did buy tickets ahead. And we loved it so much. We went to the ticket booth to find out if they had more tickets for another night and went back a second night. The seats weren't as nice a seat, but it didn't matter because music is music. You don't have to really see that well, but you didn't get to see the formations as well and stuff, but it was so much fun.
No, it sounds it. Now, I guess kind of Nova Scotia is a little bit of a kind of lesser known place. I'll say that. People imagine people in Canada go, no, it's not. But anyway, but is there somewhere that you think that people should visit that is kind of not necessarily on people's radar?
I would say less. Yeah, so in Australia, they really should go to Kangaroo Island.
Yeah, I haven't been. I've been a lot of places, but no.
So when I was in Australia, my host states were South Australia and Queensland, and I had host families in both, all over. I had a total of 36 host families. So I moved a lot. Some I was there for a week, but it was like a few days, because everybody wanted to meet the American. So they would spread me around, basically. And I was staying on different farms. But one of my host families was on Kangaroo Island. And I had to take a ferry over. Oh my God, it was some of the most choppy weather. You definitely need to take anti-nausea. Doug would have to definitely plan ahead. It was really bad because I was fine until someone else got sick next to me. And then on the way back, I was in a 4-person plane. I thought that would be better. Not really. Because I was sitting next to the pilot and I'm like, oh God, I thought this would be better. And that was a hard flight for me. I didn't, because heights, I'm not really good with heights.
And then a little plane? Nah.
Yeah. But it wasn't choppy, so I wasn't throwing up. But it's a lovely little island, and its name is appropriate because there's lots of different kinds of kangaroos, which I don't think a lot of people that don't live in your chosen homeland understand that there's lots of different kinds of kangaroos. Yeah.
Oh, there's loads. I learned about all the different names of them. I was like, I didn't know what a paddy melon was. I went to Tasmania and they talked about, have you seen any paddy melons? I'm like, what is a paddy melon? Type of kangaroo, wallaby.
Yeah, I don't know them all. I just know there's a lot of different kinds and different sizes. And also when I was there were a lot of koala in the trees. Like you would just look out the window, like here we look and it's a robin, and a squirrel. There, you look out the window and it's a kangaroo and a koala. I mean, not everywhere in Australia, in that island. That's why I'm saying, now granted, I don't know what's there for tourists. I have no idea because I was with a host family. You'd have to research, but it was, I just remember it being lovely. And it's this little place that people don't know. And then in Melbourne, I can't remember the name of, there's these penguins come off the water. It starts with a P. Oh, Phillips Island.
Oh, okay. Phillips Island it's called, yeah?
Yeah. Huh. And they come at like dusk and they give you all these instructions. Now, when I was there, it was before cell phones, but they're like, no flash, because you had the old-fashioned camera, sit quietly, don't move. And I'm telling you, like hundreds of penguins came in to go to sleep for the night. They come in. It was just, but it was, I've never, it's just like to see hundreds of penguins when, a few minutes later there were none.
I'm just trying to figure out if that's the island. There's an island that had a fox on it that took loads of the penguins. I'm wondering if that's that island. I need to do some research and find out now.
It's Wilson's Promontory National Park.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look it up.
But I was visiting family friends in Melbourne during some of my free time travel when I was on exchange, and they took me to see the penguins. So
would you say when you were because you were in Australia, like you said, staying with a lot of families, would you say that would be one time that you felt more like a local than a tourist because of what you were doing? Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I was working on farms. Yeah. It's not that I didn't do a few touristy things, but that was only during my free time travel at the end. And maybe if a family had time to take me to do something, but I was working on farms, everything from sheep farms, pig farms, dairy farms, a pineapple plantation in up in the tablelands of Queensland. Yeah, pigs are the smelliest, I liked the cows have the most lovable personality. And I was really glad when I got to the pineapple plantation that I got there late and that they had already harvested the pineapples because they showed me the machetes they use. And this accident-prone person would be like, no, I will pick up the pineapples, but I'm not. Oh, sure you would have. I'm like, no, I'm sure I would have cut off a limb.
Oh, dear. So it's a good job you didn't. Have you been back to Australia since then? I mean, because I'm guessing
no, I have not.
Yeah,
so I left in 1989. I'm aging myself. Okay. I would like to go back, but I'm dreading the flying.
Yes, I know. That is always the problem a little bit. But you can maybe do it a bit slower. You're going to be quite close because you're going to be in Hawaii next year. So you're not going to be that far away.
No, I understand that. But I would want to make sure you were home so I could see you and Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was going to say, is there one destination that's calling your name? And it can be somewhere you've already been, like Australia.
Well, I really would like to go back to Australia. But on my want to go to list is Alaska, Iceland. I really would love to go back to Switzerland because I really enjoyed it when I went before. I would like to do traveling by train. So I want you and Doug to come up with all sorts of train trips through Europe.
Okay. Well, we know that we're doing tours now, so that that I've got my ladies who travel tours. So we're doing tours for kind of women over 50, and Melissa and I are doing that from it. But also Doug and I are starting to do some tours in the UK. But that does not mean that we're not going to branch out a bit.
No, I know, and I'm very excited about all of them. It's just well, in April I'll be in Hawaii while you're in the UK, so I can't be in two places at once. But that's probably my short list. But the other thing is my priority is to reconnect with friends. So, because friends are the family you choose. That's how I look at it. And I have a lot of friends I want to go spend time with. So, I try to do like one big ticket item a year and then smaller. And my dad, who's passed away, and my mom, they still have a lot of frequent flyer miles with Southwest Airlines. So my mom's letting me use her because she doesn't want to travel anymore at 91. She wants to stay local. She still has an active life, but she has no desire to get on an airplane. So I've been using her points to travel domestically. So I went to visit my friend Diane in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She lives in a town called Minnetonka. And it only cost me $11.20 using points. So, and I stayed with her. So obviously, yes, I took her out to dinner and I paid to do a few things, but that's a bargain trip when you only had to pay the $11.20 in taxes on the points, right?
It sure is.
Yeah. So I like a bargain.
Oh, who doesn't? And that's absolutely, well, we Doug's flying back to the UK soon and he'll be doing that on points. We collect points all the time because otherwise, because a lot of people actually in the UK have asked us, because we've traveled a lot over the last few years, and they're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, we collect points. Everything we do, we think about how we can get points because, points make flights.
You don't want to get, I don't know how they do it where you are, different people, but, I don't want credit card debt. So I only, I put regular bills like my dog walker. I have her on there. My lawn and snow removal guy, I pay for on that card.
Yeah.
I also, anything travel related, I use on a particular card because I get 3 to 8 times more points depending on what promotion they're running.
We kind of think if there's something like for food, we do it. For any food shopping, we do it. For things like looking at any insurances, we do it. Anything that you're going to have to do anyway, it's like you might as well, it's a great way
to pay it off right away. You don't.
Yeah. We're very absolutely end of every month. That's
because otherwise it defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. So you might as well just pay for the flight yourself because you're going to do it in interest. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, you have to be really disciplined and know exactly what you're doing. But honestly, it's been a game changer for us doing that and learning how to use points and collect them. And certainly, I mean, we flew to Japan for, like $120. Even going to my daughter in Perth cost us like $100 and 20,000 points or something. So it's nothing. So it makes it a lot easier.
But Perth is like, a lot of people don't realize how big Australia is, that it's like flying from Massachusetts to California. That's how far apart Perth is from where Brisbane is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize,
Yeah,
at
that's
least
like
in the United States, people have no concept of how big Australia is.
Oh,
So-
really? Oh, it's a 5 hours flight, and it's and we're about to drive it, and it's a 10-day drive, 50 hours. So we're going to do sort of.
you better be keeping that journal.
Oh, we are going to video this. We are going to video it. We're going to YouTube it. We're going to do the whole thing. It's great practice for me to do it. But also, I've just looked on YouTube and there's hardly anything there. So I'm like, right, we're going to take everybody across Australia with us. So if you're,
that would be awesome.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this podcast, go and check out the Global Travel Planning YouTube. I'm going to be working on the YouTube and get more stuff on that. So definitely do. Now, what about travel tips? Because obviously you've done a lot of traveling. So is there one tip that you always share or wish that you'd kind of known when you started out with traveling?
Well, for me, make sure you take care of the thing that's going to make you nervous. Whatever it is, take care of that. So for me, I always want to know where I'm staying. So that doesn't mean I don't have it all planned out. In today's world, it's really better to do that, but it doesn't mean that I have everything all planned out. But, the day before, I'm going to, if I'm doing it more casually and it's not peak travel season, okay, we're going to drive this many hours. We need a motel here. Let me figure out where the motel is. Like when I was traveling with my dog, because with my ex-husband, when we didn't have children, we would take the previous dog with us. We always had to have a hotel that allowed dogs. So I would use the AAA, which is the Automobile Association. Paper books, they don't exist. The paper books don't exist anymore. But now I would use booking.com or hotels.com or something like that and plan ahead, for in between. So like when I did a road trip with my children a few years ago, they were younger, there was going to be a partial eclipse. And the big part of it was going to be in Georgia. So with my best friend, we decided we would do a road trip with our children in 2 cars. So we would get to Georgia in time for the thing with the special sunglasses and everything. We mapped out, where were we going to stay? We planned the first night. Then we weren't sure how far we were going to drive. The next day we would figure it out. So we would book a hotel for the next thing. And then when we got to Georgia, because at one point I lived in Georgia, we stayed with a friend of mine and she stayed with a family member of hers in the Atlanta area. So that was a little by the seat of our pants, but not totally. Like I just can't. So for me, like my upcoming trip to the UK, I've booked most things, and the thing that's still making me nervous, even though I'm listening to Doug and his expertise, my first day when I get to London, after I drop everything off and freshen up, before I get on the hop on, hop off bus, I'm going to go to the train and book my passenger assistance for my train travel, because I do travel with a cane because I have a back injury and I can't move all my suitcases, even though I'm packing light, and change trains on my own. I know I can't do that. So I'm going to be arranging for the passenger assistance. Mm-hmm. I know I have to do that. My nerves will, if I could do it ahead, I would, but the app won't let me do it from here. It says it doesn't like the United States. Like I tried it, and then online it wouldn't let me because I'm not in the UK. So I'm like, all right, forget it. So you and Doug assured me that I can do it when I get there. It's still not, it will be 6 days later that I'm getting on a train. I'm fine with it. But that's the thing I'm a world traveler, right? I've traveled lots, but that's the thing that's bugging me. Not anything else. I've got all these other activities and I have the free cancellation, or if I have to cancel or I miss it, oh, well, I don't, I'm not going to worry about the money I lost if something changes. That's part of travel. If you can break the reservation, fine. If you can't, well, if you don't have the reservation, you don't get to do it at all. So,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that would be my big thing is plan and prepare and take care of the thing that's going to make you not enjoy your trip. And then you have to expect that something's not going to go right. And you have to be okay with just going with the flow, which I'm a type A person. So I really have never done that well, but I've learned over time to do it better. And you get much more with honey than vinegar. So when you're dealing with customer service, You want to be nice, say thank you, be patient. Let the person who's obnoxious and irate go. And then you say, I'm so sorry that he treated you that way. This is what I need. Thank you very much. Because you'd be amazed at how far that goes. Treating people with respect.
It's been absolute joy to chat to you this week, Laura. It really has. It's been amazing to actually meet you because I've heard your voice and we've kind of chatted via SpeakPipe, but not face to face. It's been an absolute joy, and I can't wait actually to hear about your UK trip. And you're going to come on the UK Travel Planner podcast as well and talk about your trip after that. So, in fact, I think that may actually be out before this episode. So, I'm not quite sure which order we're going to do them in. Be interested. But you go. It's not very long till you go. So, what, 18 days or something?
16 days.
16. Wow. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to chatting to you about that. But and yeah, it's just been amazing just chatting to you about all your stories and experiences of travel throughout your life. Amazing.
Thank you.
So that wraps up this episode of Stamped Global Travel Stories. A big thank you to Laura for sharing such wonderful memories and stories. Stamped is our special series here on the Global Travel Planner podcast, where every guest answers the same 10 questions to reveal the moments, people, and places that have shaped their travels. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast so you never miss a story, and share it with a fellow traveler who would love to listen. And if you'd like to share your own travel stories, you can leave us a message on SpeakPipe. The link is in the show notes. That just leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app, because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.